The day the doctors told my father my life was basically over, I was lying in that bed, wide awake, trapped in my own body, listening to every word. Imagine hearing people talk about you like you're gone while you can't blink, can't move, can't scream that you're still there. If it were you, would you accept that? Or would some angry, stubborn part of you start clawing at the walls inside your own skin? My name is Vincent Harding. I'm the son of a man people like to call a self-made billionaire. And for 2 years, I was nothing more than a body in a private hospital room with a perfect view and absolutely no future. At least that's what they thought. The machines beeped in their steady rhythm, the nurses whispered outside my door, specialists rotated in and out like I was a science project, and every chart, every scan, every careful, gentle tone pointed to one conclusion: he's not coming back. Except I never left. I remember that room too well, the smell of antiseptic, the soft hum of the AC, the way the sunlight came in at an angle in the late afternoon and bounced off the glass table where no one ever put flowers anymore. My body was still as stone, but my mind was sprinting laps, cataloging every sound, every sigh, every time a doctor said, "Unfortunately," you know what I mean. That word they use right before they rip hope off the table like a cheap tablecloth. That day, Dr. Phillips stood there at the foot of my bed, talking to my dad. "The prognosis hasn't changed, Mr. Harding. The trauma to his spinal cord was severe. We've consulted everyone. There is no indication of meaningful recovery." I wanted to slam my fist into his clipboard. My fist didn't even twitch. My dad, Richard, 62, silver hair, perfect suit, the kind of man used to buying solutions, stared out the window, like he was making a deal with the city skyline. "There has to be something else," he said, and his voice cracked just enough that I heard the man, not the billionaire. "Another specialist, another treatment. I don't care what it costs." "Sir," the doctor said softer, "some injuries the body just can't heal from. Vincent is stable, but this may be his reality for the rest of his life." Those words landed on my chest like another weight. I couldn't lift. This may be his reality. You want to know what my reality was? Screaming in silence, counting ceiling tiles, remembering every mistake I'd ever made at 3 a.m., listening to people decide my fate inches away from my face. When the suits left the room, went quiet again, my father walked over, leaned down, put his hand on mine. "I know you're in there, son," he whispered. "I know it. We'll find a way, I promise you." I tried with everything I had to squeeze his hand. Nothing, not even a twitch on the outside. I was gone on the inside. That promise was the only thing tying me to the world. Then the door opened, and everything shifted, even though nobody understood it yet. "Mr. Harding, I'm Bethany Cole, the new physical therapist. I start today." Her voice was steady, not pitying, not defeated. A young black woman in blue scrubs walked into my line of sight, shoulders relaxed, eyes sharp, like she'd already argued with my prognosis and won. "I've reviewed Vincent's file," she said. "I know the outlook is difficult, but I believe in working with the whole person, not just the injury. If you're willing, I'd like to try some different techniques." My father just said, "Do whatever you think might help, please." And then came the wild card, the tiny twist the universe threw into my lifeless routine. A little girl, maybe 7, peeked around Bethany's hip beads in her braids, clicking softly. "Amara." Bethany sighed. "Sweetie, you need to wait in the hall." My father snapped, "This is a hospital room. You can't just let her come in here." That was him trying to control something, anything. But the kid walked in anyway. She came right up to me, no hesitation, no horror in her face, just curiosity. "Hi," she said, her voice bright. "I'm Amara. You're Vincent, right? That's a nice name." She waited like she actually expected me to answer. Bethany tried to pull her back, apologizing, but Amara kept going. You look sad. My mama helps people who get hurt. She helped my teacher when her back was messed up. She helped Miss Washington walk again. She's gonna help you too. It's okay. If you can't talk, I talk a lot. I can talk for both of us. And then she did something no one had done in a very long time. She took my hand in both of hers, tiny and warm, and just held it like it mattered. Something inside my chest loosened like someone had cracked open a window in a sealed room. There was no pity in her eyes, no clinical distance, just this annoying, beautiful assumption that I was still here. So I tried. I threw everything I had left, every silent scream, every stubborn cell, into one small command. Move. My right index finger twitched. It was barely anything the kind of movement you could blame on a draft. But Bethany saw it. Her eyes snapped down. Did you see that? My dad moved closer. See what? Vincent, if you can hear me, she said, her voice suddenly laser-focused. Try to move that finger again. I went for it harder this time, and the finger jerked just enough. My father's hand flew to his mouth. He choked on a breath. Oh my God, Vincent! Yeah, that happened. 2 years of nothing. Then one little girl walks in and treats me like a person instead of a memorial, and my body finally answers. Now you tell me, was that science, faith, luck, or just someone finally speaking to the part of me everyone else had buried? If it were you lying there, what would you call it? That tiny twitch lit a fire under everyone. Bethany ordered new assessments, new therapy blocks, pushed the team to reconsider. No response. My father did what he does best. He made an offer. He cornered Bethany in that room, still shaking. I want to hire you as Vincent's private caregiver full-time. No other patients. Use whatever methods you think will help. I'll pay you 5 times your salary. Move you and your daughter to my estate tutor school, everything covered. Bethany looked stunned, not greedy, not starstruck, just weighing the cost. Mr. Harding, that's very generous, but I have other patients and Amara's school and… I'll handle all of it, my father said. And for once there was no corporate polish, just a father whose son had moved for the first time in years. I saw what happened when your daughter touched him. Something reached him. Please, if there's even a chance. Bethany glanced at me, at her kid, at this man begging her, and she said the words that saved my life. I accept, but I don't care how big your house is. My focus is his recovery. If I work for you, you respect that. He did. Within days, I was transferred from the hospital to my father's estate. He'd already turned one wing of the house into a fully equipped medical suite, state-of-the-art, private ambulance, in-house nurses, the whole thing. People hear billionaire money and imagine luxury. Let me tell you, lying there hooked up to machines in a nicer building still feels like prison. The only difference is the thread count. Bethany walked in on that first morning like she owned the space. Good morning, Vincent. Welcome home, she said, like it was just us in some small apartment, not a mansion wrapped in grief and money. She had a folder of notes, a portable speaker, and a look in her eyes like she'd already decided failure wasn't an option. She put on Miles Davis, pulled a chair up to my bed and started talking, not at my father, not into the void, to me. She told me she'd learned about my accident, how a drunk driver hit me while I was crossing the street, how I'd shattered bones, scrambled nerves, defied all odds by surviving at all. Then she said, "Here's what I think, Vincent. Your scans say one thing, but your finger says another. I think your brain is in there trying to talk. The pathways are damaged, but not gone. Our job is to rebuild them. It's going to be slow. It's going to be ugly. But if you're willing to fight, I'm willing to fight with you." No one had ever talked to me like I had a choice. Therapy started hard and got harder. Passive range of motion, deep tissue work, sensory input, visual tracking, breathing drills that made my lungs feel like they were on fire. Bethany narrated everything. Right, arm up, down, good, left leg, stretching, good, I'm not stopping. Just because you look tired. Like she was dragging my nervous system back online by sheer force of personality. And every afternoon after school, Amara came bouncing into the room like a human sunbeam, dropping her backpack, kicking off her shoes, talking about planets and spelling tests and playground drama, grabbing my hand like it was the most natural thing in the world. Every time she touched me, my responses came faster, stronger, squeeze, clearer, eye focus, less delay. Bethany noticed, "You respond to her," she said one day, almost accusing. "I work my butt off for hours. She strolls in and you show off." If I could have laughed, I would have. Weeks went by, the finger twitch turned into a consistent squeeze on command. Then both fingers, then a clumsy attempt at moving my wrist. Each tiny success felt like summiting a mountain, while everyone else called it promising. The first time a sound came out of my mouth, it was an accident. I was trying to push air to prove to myself my lungs weren't purely decorative. A rasp slipped out, low and broken. Bethany froze, leaned in. "Vincent, do that again." I tried. Managed a scratch of a vowel. It hurt like hell. It was beautiful. We worked on it relentlessly, mouth shapes, breath, support. Ugly little noises that eventually lined up into syllables, and one afternoon after Amara ran in and grabbed my hand laughing about something that happened at school, I pushed with everything I had and managed to grind out A, Ma, Ra. Silence. Then chaos. Bethany's hand flew to her mouth, tears instantly in her eyes. Amara screamed, "Mama, he said my name!" My father was at the door, stunned. I lay there exhausted, chest burning. But I had done it. I had dragged a name from the grave of my own silence. If you're still with me, listen carefully. Because from here on out, it stops being a sad hospital story and starts turning into something a lot more complicated. Stick around, because what happened next will blow your mind. My father's gratitude for Bethany and Amara turned into action. He had already been paying for the best of everything for me, but now he started asking Bethany questions about patients who didn't have a Richard Harding in their corner. If this level of care was available to more people, he said one night, how many Vincents wouldn't be written off? Bethany, exhausted hair tied back, still charting my progress at 10 p.m., looked him dead in the eye and said, "A lot, but nobody funds that kind of work for regular families." That stuck. He came back a week later with blueprints in his hands and fire in his eyes. "I want to build a recovery center," he said. "State-of-the-art, full neuro rehab, emotional support, all of it. Not just for people like us. I want you to design the therapy programs, Bethany." That was the first twist. People expect rich men to build monuments to themselves, not places that drain money into strangers' lives. I watched my father sit there. This man who'd once only spoken in profit and losses, now talking about access, fairness, people being abandoned by a system that decided their recovery was too expensive. It shouldn't take a miracle at your own bedside to realize the system is broken. But there we were. Meanwhile, inside my body, everything was changing too. I went from bed to specialized chair, from supported seating to partial standing with a harness. Simple movements turned into complex ones. Arms, wrists, fingers, neck, speech turned from fragmented into slow, clear sentences. My world expanded from the rectangle of the ceiling to the garden outside my window. Bethany pushed my limits every day, never letting me slide into self-pity, Amara cheering for every fraction of progress, my father learning how to step back and let the work speak. And somewhere in that process, I stopped seeing Bethany as just my therapist. It wasn't some cheesy movie moment, no violin swell, no halo. It was late nights when she stayed after her shift, double-checking my muscles for spasms, talking to me about her fears, her past, her ex who'd bailed before Amara was born. It was the way she would call me out when I got impatient. Don't you dare start acting like some entitled billionaire patient. You're not special, you work like everyone else. And then smile just enough to take the sting out. I fell in love slowly, painfully, in a way that scared me because she was the one who had rebuilt my life with her bare hands. I didn't want that love to feel like obligation, like gratitude with a ring on it. I kept quiet for a while. Then came the harness. Months into rehab at the estate, Bethany had me in a full-body support rig between parallel bars. She lowered me until my feet touched the floor. My legs shook violently. "It's okay," she said, calm as always. "Your muscles forgot. We're reminding them. Can you feel the floor?" I could. I tried to push for a second. My knees locked. It felt like the earth slammed up into me. It lasted maybe 3 seconds before I collapsed fully into the harness, sobbing. But in those 3 seconds, I had been standing on my own 2 feet after 2 years of nothing. We built on that day after day, pain, sweat, swearing in my head. Bethany's steady counting Amara's drawings of Vincent walking taped to the walls. When my father decided to host a party to show everyone how far I'd come, I hated the idea. I didn't want to be a showpiece, but then a darker part of me did want all those people who had written me off to see that they'd been wrong. My private goal walk across the terrace in front of them, no harness, no bars, no chair. Bethany said, "It's too soon." I said, "Help me get there anyway." She sighed. "You're stubborn. Where do you think I got it from?" I nodded toward my father. "Now make me earn this." We trained like lunatics, parallel bars to a walker, to a cane to brief moments. With nothing at all, my legs burned. Constantly, sleep was a suggestion, doubt whispered every time I stumbled. But that image kept me going, crossing those stones under the string lights, not to impress doctors, but to look Bethany in the eye at my full height and tell her the truth. The night of the party, the estate looked like a movie set. Garden lights, live band, champagne flutes, the kind of crowd that only shows up for victory or failure. They wheeled me out, people clustered, all those sad head-tilt smiles. "You look so good, Vincent." If you've ever been sick, you know that line. My father took the mic. He talked about grief, about not giving up, about miracles. And then he did what none of them expected. He credited Bethany, and Amara called them out, in front of everyone. They came up to the front, both of them looking uncomfortable, beautiful, real. Then he turned to me. "Vincent, would you like to say something?" Pattern interrupt. I could have just spoken from the chair, and no one would have judged me instead. I planted my hands on the armrests and pushed. The world went silent. My legs trembled, every nerve screaming, but they held. I stood. A wave of gasps passed through the crowd. "Easy," Bethany whispered under her breath, close enough for me to hear. I let go of the chair. Step, step, step. 15 small, dragging steps across that terrace, every one of them a middle finger to the scan that said, "No recovery." People started crying. Someone shouted my name. My father had tears running down his face, but I wasn't looking at them. I was looking at Bethany. I stopped in front of her chest, heaving voice raw. "I told you I'd walk again." I said she was already crying. "You did." I took her hand right there in front of everyone. "You gave me back my life. You fought for me when I couldn't fight for myself. You brought your daughter into this cold house and turned it into a home again, somewhere along the way. I fell in love with you not because you saved me, because of who you are." Lines crossed, ethics manuals burst into flames. Somewhere the whole party went dead quiet. Bethany could have pulled her hand away, could have shut it down, saved the clean borders of therapist and patient. She didn't. She squeezed my hand back. "I tried to keep it professional," she whispered. "I really did. But I love you too." That was the second twist, the one people argue about. We didn't turn it into a scandal. We did the slow, hard, grown-up thing. We brought in another therapist, transitioned my primary rehab to a wider team at the new center, shifted Bethany's role so our relationship wouldn't contaminate the care we built, boundaries so what we had wouldn't cheapen the work that saved me or the work we wanted to do for others. A few months later, at the grand opening of the recovery center we'd designed together in a building funded by my father's guilt and hope, we took that next step. Bethany gave a speech about treating whole people, about never giving up on a mind just because a body is quiet. I walked on my own. Across that stage, took the mic, told the truth about our journey, and in front of a crowd of patients, doctors, skeptics, I dropped to one knee and asked her to marry me. She said yes. You might be thinking, guy falls in love with his therapist, billionaire dad funds everything, happy ending credits roll. But the reason I'm telling you all this is not to show off a fairy tale, it's to ask you if any of this is fair. We got married in this garden, where I once thought I'd be buried. Amara walked down the aisle with her flower basket, taking it more seriously than any adult. I walked to the arch. With only a cane, our vows weren't fancy. Just two people who'd seen each other at their absolute worst, saying, I'm not going anywhere. I adopted Amara not long after she stood there holding the papers, reading her new full name out loud, grinning so hard she could barely breathe. That kid who grabbed my lifeless hand and talked like I was still human was now my daughter. The recovery center, the one we called the Vincent Cole Recovery Center, started filling with patients who'd been told what I was told. Spinal cord injuries, strokes, traumatic brain injuries. People insurance had quietly given up on. We treated them like their stories weren't over, and a lot of them proved everybody wrong. I wrote a book about it, about coming back from being trapped inside myself, about Bethany, about Amara, about my father learning that money is only worth anything when you use it to pull people up instead of building higher walls. Every cent from that book goes back into funding treatment for patients who can't pay. My father insisted on that, said, this isn't about our name, it's about what we do with it. Our family grew too. Bethany and I had a little girl we named Hope. Yeah, it's on the nose, I know, but when you've lived what we lived, the name fits. Watching Amara hold her baby sister in a house that used to feel like a mausoleum, now full of toys and music and patients' stories drifting in from the center down the road. It still hits me how close I came to missing all of it. Now here's where I leave you with the part that might make you angry or might make you argue in the comments. None of this would have happened without love, stubbornness, and that little girl ignoring a rule, but also none of this would have happened without money. My father had the power to hire full-time care, build a home medical suite fund, a research-level rehab program for a single patient, then launch an entire center. If I had been born into a regular family, you might never have heard my voice. I might still be lying in a dark room somewhere, wide awake, waiting for someone to notice a finger twitch that nobody has time to see. Do you think that's fair? Do you think your chance at a miracle should depend on your zip code, your last name, or your father's bank account? Should a therapist like Bethany have to choose which patient to fight for because only some hospitals bother funding real rehab? Should a kid like Amara have to sneak past a door sign to be the only person who treats a man like he's still alive? Or do we as a society owe people more than that, owe them time, attention, belief, access to the kind of care that doesn't give up just because it's expensive? That's why I'm telling this as my story, not some clean, inspirational poster. I was trapped. I was written off. A little girl touched my hand. A woman refused to listen to the word never. My father decided to spend his fortune on hope instead of image. We broke rules. We blurred lines. We built something new. And out of all of that came a life I almost didn't get to live. So now I'm asking you, if you've stayed with me to the end, tell me what you think. If it were you in that bed, would you want your family to accept the prognosis or fight like hell, even if people called it denial? Do you think it's wrong that I fell in love with the person who helped save me? Or do you see it as two human beings crashing into each other in the middle of a storm? Do you think people with power and money have a responsibility to fund this kind of care beyond their own circle? Have you ever seen someone the system wrote off come back because one person refused to stop believing? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Argue with me, call it unfair, call it beautiful, call it complicated. Share your own stories of impossible comebacks or heartbreaking failures. Because as long as there is one person lying in a quiet room awake and unheard, this conversation is not over.